People want new things. They're tired of seeing blight. They're tired of seeing old things. I'm all for it. But we don't have to change the character of our neighborhood to incorporate new development with old. As a matter of fact, it's a beautiful thing when they both mesh together.
DC Preservation League got its start in the district in 1971 as Don't Tear It Down, created by activists who wanted to save the old post office on Pennsylvania Avenue. The activists were ultimately successful in saving the building through community effort and a passionate dedication to the cause. In 1984, Don't Tear It Down renamed their organization DC Preservation League, a name that has grown in prominence and use over the past 50 years. Today, DCPL is a nonprofit organization dedicated to preserving and enhancing Washington's historic buildings and open spaces for future generations. Their legacy extends beyond buildings into the lives of individuals across the city.
First involved with DCPL when I heard honestly about this lady named Rebecca Miller.
So my name is Rebecca Miller. I'm the Executive Director of the DC Preservation League. I started here in April of 2003. I have a background in history and a master's in business administration. So, previous to the list for DC's Most Endangered list, the National Trust for Historic Preservation had started their list in the 1980s. And in 1996, during our 25th anniversary year, the Board of Trustees for the DC Preservation League decided that this would be a great opportunity to utilize the Most Endangered Places list for Washington, D.C. to highlight different buildings or sites or neighborhoods that were struggling with either neglect, ill-advised alteration, demolition by neglect, or they were threatened with actual demolition.
The Most Endangered list signifies the critical condition of many locations that live on the edge of extinction. St. Elizabeth's East Agricultural Complex is a site that suffers from neglect and is under threat of demolition amidst ongoing development plans. Patients at St. Elizabeth's Mental Hospital ran a self-sufficient farm on this land, but today only 2 of the original buildings remain. In the urban environment of the city, this site is valued and unique as part of the district's agricultural history.
I found Metropolitan when I moved to Washington to work for the federal government, and the church was within walking distance to my little tiny apartment, and it just became my home from there. It's quite incredible, because when you think of a sanctuary, you do think of a place that is safe to go to, and Metropolitan is literally a sanctuary. It was one of the points that freed slaves would stop through as they were transitioning from the south to the north, and a lot of families and civil rights activists and social justice pioneers have either come through the church, spoken at the church, been funeralized at the church, made the church their home. That include Frederick Douglass. Vernon Jordan was a longtime member. He just recently passed. Ernie Green is a member. Ernie Green of the Little Rock Nine is a member of our church. Gwen Eiffel was a faithful member forever, and we lost her a couple of years ago. And just the legacy of people who find their way to our church do so because I think it's a sanctuary that's sort of rooted in social justice. So preservation for us is an ongoing, everyday effort, because to your point and what I've shared, we are in the midst of development that really sort of takes over the neighborhood, and it's not a bad way. In a bad way, it's just the nature of the corporate world and living in an urban environment, and we are absolutely downtown in an urban environment. It's a passion work for those of us who attend the church.
Alexander Cremel School graduated its last class in 1972 and stands as a testament to years of educational service. Named in honor of Alexander Cremel, noted African-American clergyman, activist, and educator, the building once operated as a center of neighborhood community. It has remained vacant since 1976. Designated as a DC landmark in 2003, neighborhood residents in Ivy City have been working with DCPL to advocate for the DC government to turn the school into an Ivy City community center. Built in the 1860s, Old Engine Company No. 6 is the oldest remaining example of a volunteer firehouse in DC. Its history reflects change in the district from volunteer forces unique to each neighborhood into the development of the professional firefighting force we know today. The building operated as a firehouse until 1974. Later in the 1990s, the building was threatened with demolition when a new development was being built around the building.
Firehouse number 6 was brought to us by one of our longtime volunteers, board members, committee members, who knew that this redevelopment was coming down the pike, and that we ought to take steps to preserve it. And clearly, you see the end result here, and also the building across the street, where there was success in preserving the particular historic resource. Anytime you can take a historic resource whose original use no longer fits that resource and find another use for it, that's a success.
This lonely half of a house in LaDroit Park was once the home of civil rights activist and suffragist Mary Church Tyrell. During the time that she and her husband lived here from 1899 to 1913, Mary Church Tyrell worked as the first African-American woman to serve on an American school board, and did so during a time when schools remained segregated. The Mary Church Tyrell House was listed on DCPL's Most Endangered list in 1999. And 19 years later, Howard University received a grant to restore the home for reuse.
My name is Sarah Vonish. I'm a historic preservation specialist with EHT Traceries, a local preservation consulting firm in DC. We just did the Howard University campus plan for 2020, which included a large preservation component. And that includes building surveys, research, and evaluation for their eligibility for listing in the DC Inventory or National Register of Historic Places. Mary Church Tyrell was such an important figure in civil rights and women's voting rights in the suffragist movement and education rights in DC. Such an important local figure that had such a large national impact. And the house was designated a National Historic Landmark back in 1974, and that really recognizes the national significance of Mary Church Tyrell and all the work that she did.
The De La Carlia Reservoir is one of the primary sources for drinking water in DC and has been utilized by the city since the 1850s. Workers once relied on the Superintendent's House as part of its system of operations, yet now the house stands vacant and neglected as a space that has been considered for demolition. The house is significant not only in the history of the reservoir, but in the larger history of big city water systems that expanded due to increased demand and increased population size.
Before were used as, from what I could remember, I think it was like many different things, like general store, maybe an ice cream parlor, different things. It was a fully functioning retail business corridor.
These properties on Martin Luther King Jr. Avenue are part of the Anacostia Commercial Corridor in the neighborhood's historic district. Owned and left vacant by the DC Housing and Community Development Agency, the buildings serve as an example of how lack of care can lead to demolition by neglect. While the removal of these turn-of-the-20th century buildings will eliminate some of the earliest commercial blocks of the district, DCPL partners like the Historic Anacostia Preservation Society have worked with developers to create new buildings that are compatible and complementary to the existing structures and the character of the Anacostia Historic District. Designed in 1904, the Washington Canoe Club has been a fixture on the Georgetown waterfront and an important center for Washington recreation for over a century. From an architectural standpoint, the Washington Canoe Club is among the best examples of the shingle style in the city, and the building's interior is decorated with the frieze by Felix Mahoney, cartoonist for the Washington Star and founder of the National Art School. The club represents the role of athletic clubs in 20th century recreational life and has produced numerous national champions and Olympic medalists. Despite upkeep over the years by loyal WCC members, the structure is deteriorating both internally and externally.
This building, you may have read, was designed by an architect in the early 20th century who had lived in Boston, was familiar with the vernacular there along the Charles River, wood shingled kind of Victorian boathouses. And he brought that concept to Washington and designed this building, which was built in 3 phases over basically 20 years. That really connects us with that whole 19th century architectural history. I made a connection with Rebecca Miller, the executive director of the DC Preservation League, and obviously they were interested in this old building, and which was in terrible shape, and put it on their most endangered list for the city for a couple of years. I'm hoping, and this is the part that we're just starting to focus on, are there people who really care about historic preservation in greater Washington or across the country who will see this, as a very important building to save.
The Mount Zion Cemetery and adjacent Female Union Band Society Cemetery are 2 of the oldest remaining African American cemeteries in D.C. The land was purchased in 1808 by the Dumbarton Street Methodist Episcopal Church. The African American members of this congregation broke off to form Mount Zion Church, which in 1879 took control of the cemetery. This was done with the help of the Female Union Band Society, a benevolent society of free African American women established in 1842. This cemetery stands as a physical representation of the society and culture African Americans in Georgetown created and the pride in this achievement. In 1976, the Afro-American Bicentennial Corporation organized volunteers to clean up the neglected cemetery. Since then, the site has fallen back into disrepair.
Question. Oak Hill, look at Oak Hill. Look at this. This is as old as Oak Hill. Now, there's a reason for this. Why is this? And it's not different throughout the country. The white cemeteries have had support. The white community has had resources. They've had policies and regulations and all of that. The black cemetery, the black people have not had equal access to anything.
Well, here's what I hope. I hope that we will have an amphitheater. Not a large, not really large, but something whereby we bring, whenever we have seminars and demonstrations, and we can bring young people out here and teach them. I can't change the world, but I can change the little part of this environment that I preside in, and so that's what I do.
And what keeps me going, I think, is that I can't imagine that this community one day would not exist and be extinct.
Heritage in our past is important, and in a world that's changing very fast, it's good to be able to hang on to some, vestiges of the past and to have some grounding there.
It would be a shame to lose the characteristics of this community that was built by Americans over 100 years ago. And it tells the story of who was in Washington, where they lived, how they lived, what the craftsmanship was like, and it brings people from all over the world